Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, His Highness the Emir and his accompanying official delegation arrive at Mehrabad International Airport in the Iranian capital Tehran on a two-day state visit. Rebels in Syria claim to have killed up to 40 government soldiers in Aleppo by setting off an underground bomb. US Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel arrives in Afghanistan a day after the White House announced the release of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. And Italy's Navy picks up nearly 300,500 migrants attempting the perilous journey across the Mediterranean in the last 24 hours. In the presence of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah and His Excellency the President of Iran, Hassan Rouhani, 6 agreements and memoranda of understanding were signed this evening between the State of Kuwait and the Islamic Republic of Iran at the Presidential Palace in the Iranian capital, Tehran. An official reception ceremony was held for His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah and his accompanying official delegation at the Presidential Palace in the Iranian capital Tehran on the occasion of His Highness the Emir's two-day state visit. His Highness the Emir was received by His Excellency the President of Iran, Hassan Rouhani, where the national anthems of both countries were played, and then there was a display by the Honor Guard. His Highness the Emir then shook hands with senior officials of the Iranian government, and in his turn, His Excellency the President Rouhani shook hands with members of the official delegation accompanying His Highness the Emir. Afterwards, His Highness the Emir and His Excellency President Rouhani held official talks where they discussed the distinctive bilateral relations and means of developing them in several domains, and also tackled issues of common concern as well as the latest regional and international developments. Friendly atmosphere prevailed in the talks, which reflected the mutual understanding and friendship between both countries and their keenness on fortifying joint cooperation in all fields. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah and his accompanying official delegation arrived at Mehrabad International Airport in the Iranian capital Tehran on a two-day state visit. His Highness the Emir was received at the airport by the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif, Kuwait's ambassador to Iran Majdi Ahmed Al-Dhaferi, the Arab ambassadors accredited to Iran, and members of the Kuwaiti embassy. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah and his accompanying official delegation left the country at noon today, heading for the Islamic Republic of Iran on a two-day state visit. His Highness the Emir was seen off at the airport by His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al-Ghanem, Sheikhs, the Deputy Chief of the National Guard, Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Amir Diwan Affairs, Sheikh Nasser Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Sabah, ministers, governors, senior state officials and top commanders of the Army, Police and National Guard. His Highness the Emir is accompanied by an official delegation comprising the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Commerce and Industry Abdul Muhsin Mid'ij Al-Mid'ij, the Minister of Finance Anas Khalid Saleh, the Minister of Oil and Minister of State for National Assembly Affairs Dr. Ali Saleh Al-Amir, the Director of His Highness the Emir's Office Ahmed Fahd Al-Fahd, the Emiri Diwan Advisors Muhammad Abdullah Abu Al-Hassan and Dr. Adil Talib Al-Tabtabai, the Head of the Emiri Protocol and Ceremony Sheikh Khalid Al-Abd Khalid Abdullah Subah Nasser Al-Subah, the Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Khalid Sulaiman Jarallah, and senior officials from the Emir Diwan, the Foreign Ministry, the Oil Ministry, and the Finance Ministry.
سلام وطني. سلام.
His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Subah received this morning at his Bayan Palace Diwan the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al Ghanem. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince then received His Highness Sheikh Jaber bin Mubarak Al Hamad Al Subah, the Prime Minister. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince also received the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince later received the Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs Sheikh Mohammed Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince then received the Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence Sheikh Khalid Jarrah Al Subah. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince then received the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Mubarak Al Subah. The First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah received the credentials of the Mauritanian Ambassador to Kuwait, Hamid Hamouni. The credential presentation ceremony was attended by the Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Khalid Sleiman Jarallah, the Director of the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister's Office, Ambassador Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Nasser Mohammed Al Subah, and the Director of the Protocol Department, Ambassador Tari Ajran Al Ajran. The two main Palestinian factions, Fatah and Hamas, appear on the verge of forming a unity government a month after signing a reconciliation agreement in Gaza. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says both factions have agreed on a final architecture of the unity government and that the lineup would be made public on Monday. Mehdi Al-Wahidi has this report from Gaza.
Amid intense fears and different expectations, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said the formation of a Palestinian unity government backed by the rival factions of Fatah and Hamas will be announced Monday.
Things are going very well and as fast as we needed. We are finalizing the unity government and in the last moments for the announcement of the government. Details of small issues still needed to be resolved. I think this is normal and logical after 7 years of a political division.
According to the reconciliation agreement, the unity government should have been formed last Thursday, but an impasse happened. Hamas movement said the delay in announcing the unity government is being caused by a dispute over the appointment of the Ministers of Foreign and Detainees Affairs, while Mahmoud Abbas insists on Riyad al-Maliki as a Minister of Foreign Affairs and the dissolution of the Ministry of Detainees Affairs. Hamas states its clear rejection and says it's due to nationalistic reasons. Meanwhile, Gaza Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh said there is no pulling back from the Palestinian decision to end the division, stressing that both Hamas and Fatah remained committed to the National Unity Agreement signed last month.
It is known that Hamas expressed the reservation on the appointment of al-Maliki as a minister. The reservation will not reach the level of rejection because Hamas is serious and wants to move forward to the formation of the unity government.
Outraged by the deal, Israel said it will boycott the Palestinian Authority immediately after the announcement of the unity government. A senior Israeli official said the formation of a unity government is a great leap backward. Furthermore, the Israeli authorities refused to allow 3 ministers from the besieged Gaza Strip to go to Ramallah to participate in the ceremony of the unity government. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the National Unity Government will denounce violence, accept the two-state solution and recognize Israel as a state. Such scenario is not new and it is still rejected by Hamas and other Palestinian factions who helped in the formation of the same government. With all such headaches, Palestinians in Gaza still wonder if the new government will be able to heal the wounds of the siege and the division. Majlub Haidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
Rebels in Syria claim to have killed up to 40 government soldiers in Aleppo by tunneling under their positions and setting off an underground bomb. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the blast took place near the Zahrawi market, not far from the citadel in Old Aleppo. It said at least 20 people were killed. A rebel alliance called the Islamic Front claimed responsibility for the blast. The latest blast came a day after the observatory said about 2,000 people have been killed since January in regime bombings of rebel-held areas of Aleppo as well as nearby towns and villages. Despite the fighting, Syria plans to hold a presidential election next Tuesday that is all but certain to give Bashar al-Assad a third term. The historic Old City area has seen horrific violence ever since a major rebel offensive on Aleppo in July of 2012. Smugglers and outlaws have killed 6 Egyptian army border guards, including an officer, in a gun battle in the remote southwestern area. The Egyptian army announced that the battle occurred in the Al-Wadi al-Gidid province, which borders Sudan to the south and Libya to the west. They said the clash followed a desert chase but gave no details. Army spokesman Ahmed Ali described the attack as a reprisal for government border guards' successful efforts in foiling the smuggling of huge amounts of arms and narcotics into Egypt and the arrest of 68 smugglers during May. Over the past year, Egyptian authorities have announced the seizure of large caches of weapons they say were smuggled across the desert border with Libya, including rockets, heavy machine guns and ammunition. On the other hand, Egypt's stock market has seen a sharp plunge that forced a temporary suspension of trading after reports of a newly proposed government tax on capital gains. U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has praised U.S. forces in Afghanistan over the release of the only U.S. soldier held for nearly 5 years by the Taliban. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, aged 28, was handed to U.S. Special Forces in southeastern Afghanistan as part of a prisoner swap, and in return, 5 senior Afghan detainees were released from the Guantanamo Bay detention facility in Cuba. Hagel, who met some of those involved at Bagram Air Base north of Kabul during a previously unannounced visit, said today that the military believed the soldier was in danger and had to act quickly, essentially to save his life. He added that Afghan President Hamid Karzai was informed of the prisoner swap after the fact and hoped the prisoner exchange could lead to a breakthrough in negotiations with the Taliban.
Secretary Kerry did inform President Karzai after the fact, and this was an operation, I think, as everyone recognizes, that had to be very closely held. Only very, very few people knew about this operation. We did not want to jeopardize any leaks. We couldn't afford any leaks anywhere.
A senior Chinese general has lashed out at the United States and Japan for criticizing Beijing's activities in disputed areas of the South China Sea, calling the comments provocative. Lieutenant General Wang Guangzhong, Deputy Chief of China's General Staff, told a security forum in Singapore today that Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel had angered him with their remarks. While addressing defense officials at the annual Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore yesterday, Hagel accused China of destabilizing actions in the South China Sea and told them that Washington would not look the other way if international order was threatened. In his remarks to the forum on Friday, Abe pledged Japan's utmost support to Southeast Asian nations in their efforts to ensure the security of their seas and airspace. Thousands of police and soldiers have been deployed around the Thai capital Bangkok to try to prevent anti-coup protesters from gathering. Parts of the city centre have been blocked off to traffic and train stations are closed, while activists have been using social media to call for a national protest. Trying to evade the heavy security operation aimed at stifling dissent, anti-coup protesters scuffled with police today. Hundreds of protesters had gathered near a major shopping mall in downtown Bangkok to denounce the country's May 22nd coup, despite the lockdown by soldiers of some of the city's major intersections. Italian boats have rescued nearly 3,500 migrants trying to reach Europe in the past 24 hours, as Italy's government said that as many migrants had arrived so far this year as in the whole of 2013. The Navy said it had picked up around 1,300 migrants on Saturday as part of a major ongoing operation to save the lives of thousands of migrants heading for Europe in overcrowded and rickety boats. Another 200 were picked up near Lampedusa, the tiny Italian island, which was the scene of a double tragedy last year when more than 400 migrants died trying to reach Europe's shores. Italy has long borne the brunt of migrants making the crossing from North Africa to Europe, but officials say there has been a significant rise in numbers in recent months. Many are asylum seekers from Eritrea, Somalia and Syria, and most are picked up by the Italian Navy. Earlier this month, however, at least 14 died when a boat sank between Libya and Italy. Kuwait Stock Exchange closed on mixed board today, with the weighted index reading 492.18, losing 0.9 points. The price index stood at 7,321.13, gaining 30.04 points, but the third main index, the KSX 15, settled at 1,201.61, shedding 7.07 points. Meanwhile, the number of trades reached 3,564. The value of exchange stocks, just over 29 million Kuwaiti dinars and just over 138 million shares, changed hands. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. His Highness the Emir and his accompanying official delegation arrive at Mehrabad International Airport in the Iranian capital Tehran on a two-day state visit. Rebels in Syria claim to have killed up to 40 government soldiers in Aleppo by setting off an underground bomb. US Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel arrives in Afghanistan a day after the White House announced the release of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. And Italy's Navy picks up nearly 3,500 migrants attempting the perilous journey across the Mediterranean in the last 24 hours. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.